Hello and welcome to another episode of The Swing. As always, it's your boy HK, and you may notice that there is a mask on this face here. I'll let that guy Owais get a chance to talk about that when we get on to that side of it. But today we come to you another episode live on SportsTrends, live on our YouTube channel, The Swing Podcast, and live on the SportsTrends TV channel, IPTV as well. So lots and lots of viewers to be able to check us out on a night that I'm going to tell you now, this is 100% going to be a heated episode. There is a situation where you go from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. We're going to get a chance to talk about what Gary Trent Jr. did in the previous game of the back-to-back against the Washington Wizards. But we are just coming off you know what? We'll just talk about the Lakers game once we get to it. But before we do that, as always, we are sponsored by Thrive Fantasy, which is your daily fantasy sports app to join on daily contests focused on player props. So it's all about you selecting over and under on a nightly basis on certain players, whether they were above or below in your mind of certain statistical categories, whether it be points, rebounds, points and assists, points, rebounds, and assists, all of those combined. And if you happen to be in the top 10% lineup at the end of the night, you will win legitimate money. And as being a loyal listener of the Swing Podcast, if you use the promo code SWING, SWING, to go ahead and join, then you will get your deposit of up to $50 matched 100% using Thrive Fantasy. So, we're very happy to have them as a sponsor for us. So sign up and prop up today. That guy Owais, I'm going to be taking off this mask, but you tell me exactly why things are happening as they are.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't remember, HK had lost an All-Star Challenge against myself. And because of that, we asked you guys what he could possibly do for losing that challenge. I got the Ice Bucket Challenge in really cold weather, took it like a champ, and respectfully, he takes it like a champ as well. I ended up coming up with for him to clean shave and look like a baby. And so he has a mask right now out of pure embarrassment, but if he does take it off, you'll see the shine, the reflection of these baby cheeks. Let's see them, baby. And the reveal. Oh my God. Who the heck is, you know what? You look a lot like TK when you're clean shaven. Like, you guys have a very similar resemblance. The face structure and everything like that. What? This is so weird. Oh, never again. Guys, we're never again having this. I think we lost our 10 followers, just after this,
Yeah. It is definitely not a look that is one that I'm a fan of. A little too much wind comes onto the face with that as well. But I said the challenge is the challenge. The All-Star Challenge was one where I unfortunately did not take the dub. Always had the better lineup. Always had the superior pick. So I'm the one stuck with this clean-shaven face that I can only hope grows back about as quick as it was gone today. So there you go, that guy Owais, done for you. I was up to the challenge, but it seems the Toronto Raptors, on the other hand, were not up to the challenge. We're going to take a little bit of time to talk about the Washington game after, but let's focus first and foremost on this game that we just had against the Los Angeles Lakers. A game where we started off absolutely horribly, gave up 40 points in the first quarter, and followed it up with a quarter in which we scored 14 to their 28. So we at one point were down by 34 points. And at that time, it was just no longer a contest. And despite us having some good late hustle to get it down to a respectable 9-point loss in the end, that was just a horrible, horrible performance front to back. I know you have a lot to say about who you consider to be the chief architects of it. So I'm gonna let you start right away.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. I think our viewers are ready for some of that spicy O.
See, now I can't be as angry because I see a little child next to me. It's kind of crazy. But long story short, we've talked about the issues that the Toronto Raptors have faced all season. And one of the main ones is just how every team has just been shooting lights out against the Raptors, especially from beyond the arc. And I, for one, cannot understand why this is happening and why this doesn't get fixed, right? You have the length, you have the defensive mindset. However, either you're getting destroyed on the pick and roll, which opens up a lot of options, and really bad 3-point shooting teams end up shooting like they're the Golden State Warriors from 2016 onwards. You know what I mean? And it's such a joke. It gets frustrating to watch. And I'm going to point out the problem to this entire situation. It's leadership. We don't have it. We absolutely do not have leadership with Pascal. Pascal has been the consistent issue for me. He not only is subpar and lazy on the defensive end, and also Stanley Johnson, today you were abysmal protecting the paint and protecting the perimeter. You were lazy. Hands aren't active. It's just so difficult that you wake up after you're already down by 30 points or something like that, right? And this happens to happen every single game. So why the solutions, why they aren't emphasizing these things, for the life of me, I do not understand. Now, focusing on Pascal Siakam, he absolutely infuriated me today. Okay. You're going up against a team like the LA Lakers, who are arguably, even without LeBron and AD, a still very good defensive team. And you don't have offensive options today. But for the most part, you're getting guarded by guys like Kuzma. Kyle mother flippin' Kuzma. Okay. And you elect to throw it out to the perimeter where we're already shooting horrible, right? Take the mismatch, attack and attack and attack. But what do you decide to do? You get scared of the double team, you dish it out prematurely. Sometimes the double team's not even there, but prematurely in your head, you've already decided that you want to dish it out to the wing or to someone and just it's ends up in horrible shots. He dribbles too much, and I'm getting absolutely frustrated. And then he goes ahead and does it in one quarter. Everything that he had to do throughout the game, he does it in one quarter in the fourth when it's already flipping too late. Like, what are you doing? I don't understand you, Pascal. I absolutely hate the way you're playing most of the time. And, it's come down to this. Harris is going to make an argument that of our 17 wins, as if that's a really proud thing to say with this team. Of our 17 wins, he's shooting an amazing amount. And you can get into the statistics of all that. But why does that matter when you're losing half your games and most of the games that should matter, you're shooting abysmal. You are making bad plays. You are absolutely playing lazy defense, right? Why is our highest paid player playing like an absolute trash bucket? Right? Why? There's games that you play amazing, and there's games that you absolutely play like doo-doo. You'll still score 20 points, but it's meaningless 20 points. Meaningless. Okay? And the same thing goes for Boucher. Like Boucher, I admit, he has a very weird situation with him because you're not really expecting. He's overperforming based off of like what was expected of him this season. But it's literally like nothing points. Now the Raptors as a whole, they offensively and defensively, surprisingly, without a guy like OG, we are garbage. Even with Kyle and Freddie, if OG's not there, we are garbage, hot garbage. And so if there is a plus this season that I want to give out to, apart from that one game winner that Gary Trent gave us, which was a much better season performance than pretty much everyone except for maybe Freddie. That one time he had 54 points. But even then, that's two things we're looking at this entire season that we're proud of. Do you know what I mean? So ultimately, the problem is here. We are not taking ourselves seriously on the defensive end over and over again. It could be just we're outmatched and we just don't have the IQ anymore. Two, our main guys who should be trying to score need to score. These are the and of course this happened, and I don't understand why OG would do something like that. And as soon as he got ejected, I was like, this game's over. This game's absolutely over. We don't have OG. What are we gonna do? Right? What? Nothing. We don't have. And imagine, like, for the most part, these are second, third stringers scoring crazy buckets on us, and we have our entire main bench and two of the three starters that we usually have, right? Or two of the 5 stars that we usually have. Yeah. And most of those guys on the bench are known to be defensive guys. Anyway, ultimately, I don't know about you guys out there, but Pascal has really been disappointing since the bubble. And his inconsistency, his lack of, like, he'll attack when in some games, but then another game he'll come back and we're like, when did he get these 20 points and why do they matter? They don't. And I do not want that from our highest paying guy. We, as the Raptors, from what I see, unless we're able to get a superstar, I'm not even kidding, unless we're able to get a superstar in that 2022 free agency, or maybe even before that in some weird way, this core will not sustain whatever the NBA is going to look like in the 2 to 5 year window. I'm serious. With Pascal, absolutely no shot. Okay? Gary Trent Jr. has shown me more in these games than Pascal has shown me in the last 2 seasons. Okay. I'm not even kidding. This is in terms of mentality. I swear to God. But anyway, I don't want to hate on him too much, because I do I will agree that he is a main piece. But right now, I'm so over it. You're fans, and not so many that fans, whatever it's in Tampa, we're chanting the Toronto Blue Jays at a home game. Like, how ridiculous is that? That even when you're not at home, you're still getting trashed on by fans that made their trip there. No, look, I applaud the Toronto Raptors for giving us nightmares this season.
Look, the fact of the matter is first and foremost, as far as Siakam's concerned, look, these kind of games are always going to happen when you can literally be tripled on because of the fact that you don't have the capabilities to be able to essentially pass it around. We don't have the depth with Lowry and Fred out together to be able to make up for the fact that you are essentially going to be forced to either run completely through Pascal or hope that a combination of Bembry, Gary Trent, and Boucher really are going to be able to shoot those threes out of you. So OG becomes an absolutely key piece of this entire thing. And you're right. As soon as that ejection happened, which, by the way, like, as much as I dislike the fact that it was an ejection, what was OG thinking with regards to that flip? I mean, it was cool. Don't get me wrong. It'll be a nice highlight to have, a little bicep curl, little Dennis Schroeder over there. But the fact of the matter is, we were already going off on a bad start. It was 34-20 at the time when that was happening, and frustration was already setting in, no doubt. That is where you have to be smarter than that, bigger than that, to be able to kind of work through. And look, fact of the matter is, in that third and fourth quarter, they showed that hustle. The sad part is, why wasn't that shown off the beginning? Now, some of it is undoubtedly going to go on the fact that the Lakers were shooting insanely
Don't make that excuse. I will say this. Do not make that freaking excuse. It's every single team that's doing on us. You cannot make that excuse.
I'm not talking about making an excuse on there. Where we are lacking is badly on the defensive rotation. The vast majority of those first 8 out of 9, by the way, they shot 8 out of 9 threes to start the game off. The vast majority of them being in the corner on rotations where you were incredibly, incredibly late on. And going back to your point that you were making with regards to kind of how our defensive inconsistencies have been just absolutely front and center as far as the Raptors are concerned. And there's no hiding that. I mean, look, our offense has never been the key thing as far as Toronto's concerned. But what had always made us so incredibly effective over a long period of time is that our defense always traveled. And considering the fact that with all these guys that are out there, you're pretty much going with a defense first starting lineup, for them to be able to lose their guys on so many rotations Gary Trent lost his guys early off. OG, sadly enough, was losing it. So was Pascal. The only guy that legitimately had a good defensive game today was DeAndre Bembry. And DeAndre Bembry came out with the hustle. Obviously,
I
the
agree.
stats and everything look nice. That's fine as well. Got 5 steals. But the basic idea here is that you have to show that consistency because your offense is always going to be an uphill battle without you having your main guys on a team that's already lacking that depth. And that just continues. This Lakers team is just as bad. If anything, they're worse in terms of their depth hit than we are. But they came out with an absolute just passion, first and foremost. And secondly, they came out with ball movement that was actually really good to watch, which is, I mean, Schroeder is not one of those guys who's often getting that ball moving and getting it going, but that second and third pass that was coming for them, whether it be from KCP to get it to the corner, whether it be from Caruso coming off the bench and getting those ball movements going as well.
Yeah,
it was
man.
just one of those scenarios where we were getting beat. And by the way, you know where we absolutely got beat? A certain guy playing his first game against the Toronto Raptors since we went ahead and made that switch. Marc Gasol came in and had pretty much a vintage performance tonight. 13,
Imagine.
9, and 5 with 4 blocks.
Imagine.
Right. Obviously, we never got that opportunity to truly, I guess, honor him, whatever, when he would have come back to Toronto after obviously everything that he did. But he played incredibly well. And the fact of the matter is, obviously, he's a guy who knows our offensive schemes, who knows how everything is working. And he did an absolute clinic on the inside.
My dude. Okay, let me explain something here to you. Marc Gasol, bless his soul, bless what he brings to the game. There's no excuse for the Raptors in this situation. I'm sorry.
Sure, yeah,
Marc Gasol,
no.
Listen, Marc Gasol is slow. You, given your lineup, are a fast lineup.
Yep.
Use your speed to your advantage. And this is where I'm going to get really upset about Boucher, right? It took him years to realize that he has to out-hustle Marc, not play in the post or whoever, Siakam, whoever was inside, right? Use your speed against a guy who's slow. But they just didn't do it. They absolutely did not do it. And to see that the ball was moving so well, like I think there was a stat where it was about like the Lakers average, I think maybe like 24 assists in a game. I don't know what their assist average is, but in the first half, they had already had 22 assists. And this goes, now I go back to, there's 2 things here, okay? The first thing is, when you have a superstar, okay? When you have a superstar, you absolutely need to be I don't care if you shoot 0 for 20, okay? Take on that challenge, okay? Take on that challenge and go for it. Pascal, people will say, I'm not gonna lie. In the first half, first 3 quarters, he absolutely did nothing. He wouldn't even try to take those shots. He wouldn't take that responsibility. And yeah, he had maybe 11 shots in the first half.
How many do you expect the guy to have? Yeah, he was 2 for 11, so he was trying to do a couple of other things instead.
No, don't. I want you to shoot. I want you to get into those positions, get to the line. Dude, what happened in the end? Then he turned it up and he was what was happening? He was getting to the line, right? Use your speed against a slower team like that, right? And I don't know why they just decided we don't have our 3-point shooters today, but we're going to still continue the same garbage shot selection from the outside. And the only time that I saw consistently that we were doing well was when we were slashing, quite frankly. And yeah, we got blocked a few times, which were technically, we had this run where I think it was spearheaded by Bembry and Malachi. And Bembry had 2 dunk attempts on Marc Gasol, and both of them the ref didn't call. And this would have put us back maybe 14 before maybe this was early 4th quarter or maybe end of 3rd quarter, something like that. And so now I come back to this. It's like, I absolutely appreciate the hustle of DeAndre Bembry this entire few series, a few games. Malachi has been a highlight as well of mine. But unfortunately, Pascal just has not been. Gary Trent is still learning the defense, still learning the offense, so you can cut him some slack right now. Everyone else, there's no excuse, man. And I don't know if it's just that we actually aren't that talented. It's maybe hard for us to accept as Raptors fans. But, we're shorthanded. Sure, you don't have Kyle Lowry. You don't have Fred VanVleet. Whatever. You don't have OG. Okay. We still made it respectable in the end. But it's really hard for me to see almost a ceiling and the potential that we saw from Pascal early, especially when he got his contract, and then just the complete opposite. We saw the peak and we're seeing valleys, and it's like this. First half of that new season, up. Since then, down, and like this, and worse, and worse, and worse. And that's what I've been seeing in terms of Pascal. Okay. Do I want him to succeed? Of course I do. Does all of Toronto want him to succeed? Of course we do. But we're also critical. You can't help us. We're just passionate fans. But, Nick Nurse also has to take a lot of responsibility for the garbage that we've been seeing. I mean, I don't know what he's been telling the players. I don't know how they've been, running their practices, but it's the same issues every single game. It's the same issues. And I don't know what else you can do in order to get these guys to do that. And, get on the same page and fix those issues.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, you're talking about practice, but they're not having any real practices. It's been so incredibly regulated. They've pretty much talked about the fact that there's been across the board, this isn't just a Raptors issue, this is an NBA-wide thing, that practice sessions have pretty much been cut to pretty much only film. And that's how it's been going. There's very little that's being allowed as far as that's concerned. And some teams
that's an NBA issue. That's every single team that's going through that.
But some teams are able to get there. But there's a reason why so many teams are struggling. It's not just the Raptors, by the way. But speaking of specifically the Raptors over here, you're absolutely right. There are things that need to be drastically cleaned up on the defensive end. Just plain and simple, sticking on your man. There's just so many times where you're not fighting through just the most basic of screens and letting a guy go through. And it's happened on more than a few occasions where it's just like, guys, this is purely an effort thing. So that's where I appreciate a guy like Yuta Watanabe and these guys coming in, because even though they aren't nearly as talented as the starters or even the vast majority of guys that they're going up against, they will always fight through. And that's what makes them so that they have that capability to be able to kind of stick themselves on the floor. And really the only thing that's missing on those guys is to have a more consistent, say, corner 3-point shot, and you can get them to stay on the floor longer. But it's just the sad reality of this entire damn season, especially for the Toronto Raptors, where they just can't get any sort of momentum going in. We're going to take a second to talk about the entire Washington game that came into it. And even that was a come from behind effort, but you would have thought that would have been something that carried forward as far as momentum is concerned. But we have to also remember this is a back-to-back situation, and back-to-backs have been, especially this season, been just especially bad for Toronto. And, we've seen in post-game interviews, all this, Fred VanVleet had an interview about it, just the fact that everyone's conditioning is so bad at the same time because of the COVID situation, the fact that they got hit by COVID altogether, and they're still essentially fighting their way uphill conditioning-wise to be able to have the legs and the gas in them to be able to do it. So, it's not about excuses. It's been a terrible season, but you have to keep this stuff into perspective, which is why I'm not all about throwing the toys out of the pram and telling me that Pascal is garbage, Boucher is garbage.
Pascal is garbage. I'm sorry.
No, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong.
Pascal is so bad. No, look, he's only good.
But anyways,
15 to 20% of the games that we've seen from Pascal since the All-Star break of 2020, right? After his contract season, right? Since then, 2019 at that point, I would assume. 2019? Maybe it was 2020. I can't remember. Anyway, since then, only 20% of his games, I will say, have been actually good games. 20%. The other 80% doesn't know what to do. Is not putting the defensive effort. There's a reason Nick Nurse benches him or yells at him and stuff like that, because he wants him to perform, right? He wants him to do these things because, he's one of the guys that spearheaded his success in the Raptors organization in itself, right? He brought him here. He's a product, of course, like an upset dad to see, like, you're not actually, performing to what your potential could be, because they see it. Maybe he just doesn't see it. I don't know what it is. There's a confidence issue or something like that. Or ever since he got that big money, he feels like he owns something. No, seriously, the attitude
again, like this is all speculation. Where
expects himself to be? He's an all-star 1 year. He expects himself to be a superstar. No, man, be humble. Continue.
Where are you getting this idea that he is?
I'm telling you, it's in his demeanor, man. It's in his demeanor.
Like this is all just
in his demeanor, man.
It's
work on your game. Work on your game. Get better. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, Pascal, I do still love him, but I swear to God, today I want to trade his ass all the way to whenever, to Houston for all I care. I'll pick up an Eddie House. I'll pick up a freaking John Wall over Pascal these days, man. Jesus. Anyway, love this guy, and I love that Gary Trent got his back. But anyway, let's go to a nicer, more calm place. Yeah. And I was watching. Actually,
much like my beard hair, Owais is all the way gone right now.
Yeah, I know. I apologize, guys. I apologize. But this is the raw passion. You should see me in the group chats. Like I say a lot of profanity just because I'm just so upset half the time with just how bad we've been playing. Because I'm just not. I don't know where it's coming from. I really don't. Anyway, the Washington game, almost a similar situation, but somehow we managed to also make a comeback. I'm just gonna quickly show you guys these highlights. As you can see, Russell Westbrook, and again, a depleted Washington team. Okay, they don't have Hachimura. They don't have that size apart from like maybe an Alex Len, and still we're getting our butts handed to us for like almost 3 quarters until we make this miraculous comeback. And it comes from guys like DeAndre Bembry, right? Gary Trent Jr. and we took the lead. Put Pascal Siakam on the court, had 3 or 4 really bad possessions in the clutch to just maintain a lead, and let Westbrook score in the clutch. You know what I mean? Like, it's better to not have Pascal on the court during the clutch time. Seriously, that's just what I've noticed. I'm happy with him being a catch and shoot sort of guy, or maybe a last possession kind of guy, but not to facilitate the last 3 minutes. I'm sorry. That's just unacceptable. And Gary Trent Jr., what gives us like probably the only positive thing where we can like literally jump for joy as if we won the championship this season, scores an incredible, to some extent controversial game winner.
I wasn't controversial. That was a massive
for the Washington fans. We have sensitive Washington fans over here. Sorry. Okay.
Well, look, you're absolutely right. So, like, first and foremost, that was, again, we've had consistently bad starts as far as this entire season has gone. We don't get off the blocks. It's like it takes that little bit of time to get the engine revving and get ourselves going. Here again, double-digit deficit right off the bat there.
Look at that. Let me just explain. Look at that play that just happened. Look at Pascal's perimeter defense right there. Did you see how lazy it was?
Yes.
Look at it. Look at him.
Okay, well, here he's hedging with, okay, that's fine.
Here's isolation, and that's fine. That's just a tough shot. This was decent. But for the most part, it was just god-awful. Again, laziness, right?
Just to get that steal, one man fast break. Yep. Mm-hmm.
One highlight. Congrats. One highlight. For the entire
That's
game.
not what I'm talking about. Anyways, what I'm telling you over here from the
box out a guy like Russell
the starters, what was actually really, really nice to see was Malachi Flynn. And that, alongside a surprisingly good effort from Aaron Baines, probably his best game as a Raptor thus far, coming down into the fourth and having a solid 10-8 in limited minutes. But Malachi coming into an odd situation where actually people thought he would be starting in that game, but instead Nick Nurse decided to have him as first guy off the bench. But he just came in with so much confidence, and that's where you start to look at what kind of upside you have, what kind of guys you have that can essentially be pieces going forward. Malachi Flynn in the last couple of games, after obviously having a bit of a stop-start season, having his own issues, having off-court things with his dad saying who knows what about what the Raptors should be doing. But in the end, in a game where you didn't have Fred VanVleet, in a game where you didn't have Kyle Lowry, Malachi Flynn stepped up, showed his value, not only on the offensive end where he had a 16-point game, shooting 6 of 13, 2 threes. That's all excellent. But dude had 4 steals and 3 blocks. It's like they talked about it being a Fred VanVleet line. This boy is Red VanVleet. He is just absolutely, to me, unconscious. Like, you know, those people who don't care about what's going on, they'll miss one, they'll come back. They just have that mental fortitude. I'm seeing that in Malachi Flynn. And hell, he even had that today in the Lakers game when he, you know, later on had a couple of big shots, kept facilitating, had 8 rebounds for a guard. Like, these kind of things are really, really positive. And for a guard to average 7 boards over the last 2 games, and a lot of them being contested rebounds where he is going in for it, all of that stuff is something that really makes me happy as a fan to watch and in terms of future development.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, I'll even make a comment to how late in this Lakers game, like, he was the only one I saw fighting for the boards on the offensive end. Like, he was coming from a 3-point line and just jumping in for an offensive rebound, and he almost stripped a few guys and a few bigs when trying to get that, right? So, and I think he was successful 1 or 2 times as well. So, like, big shout out to Malachi, and I like the confidence. And I think the most important thing is he's one of those he seems like one of those traditional point guards, right? Like someone who can facilitate the ball, work the pick and roll, like his dad had mentioned, and also just like, you know, he could shoot. So nothing, we haven't seen anything special, but it's definitely something so raw that can turn into something very, very special. Just a hardworking guy who has all the tools to do, you know, a lot of the same stuff that Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet do. And, you know, that's great for us in terms of, you know, our guard situation. Guys that we can definitely rely on and could help spread the floor and get guys their looks. And so, yeah, I am so excited to see what we have in store with him in the future. And Gary Trent as well. You know, we've seen what he can do. Tonight was a little bit of an off night, but, you know, I'll give him the excuse of having to deal with the trauma of trying to keep Montrez off of him. I'm just kidding. So anyway, like, I think if we are to take a look at some of the Raptors that I will say have absolutely grown on me, and I want to see in this kind of continuous core lineup, whether it be on the bench or not, it would be Malachi Flynn. I absolutely love DeAndre Bembry now. I'm a big fan now. And Yuta Watanabe. Those are the 3 guys. Stanley Johnson, you know, he's inconsistent. I like having him as like maybe our very last ditch effort. But those 3 definitely have shown a lot of great things this year. A lot of great things. Now, I don't know about you. Is there anyone that stood out to you? Apart from those?
Well, in that game in particular, as I said, Aaron Baines has been one of those who's just had so many. I don't even know what particularly is there, because he's getting good shots. He's taking the right things. I feel like he gets in the right spots defensively. He just hasn't been able to put it together in any sort of consistent fashion. Obviously, he was here almost as like a fill-in, right? It was one of those things where, you know, once we lost Ibaka, once we lost Gasol, and just had a situation where we were incredibly lacking in bigs, and Aaron Baines himself coming off a year where he was, you know, starting off really well, had a long-term injury, never really got back into it. It was just one of those things where you really want to be able to see what he does have to offer, because the fact of the matter is Aaron Baines has been an absolutely solid big for all the teams that he's played for. He was a big part of what Boston did. He was a big part of Phoenix, and he really showed not only his increased range over there where he was an over 40% three-point shooter, but here with the Toronto Raptors, even though he's getting really good clean looks, he's only been shooting about 23%. So for him to have a good game like this is actually quite nice for what they actually want to do. And in fact, I would say he even played pretty decently tonight against the LA Lakers. So it's just one of those things where it's not like I'm going to say he's standing out or anything like that, but it's a guy that you want to see kind of get back into the groove.
Yeah.
It's just the whole freaking Raptors, like this entire year, I can't at any real stretch be like, look, this is where I can legitimately evaluate what we can do or what we can't do, because it just feels like at no point are they ever actually humming, like the engine is rolling. It just seems like it's been sputtering the entire year, and that's just essentially thrown everything out the window. Like, I don't know what this Raptors team is until I get an opportunity to be able to see it in a consistent period where all this other crap isn't screwing them up. So yeah, I don't know. It's just a really, really tough entire situation, and the record is pretty much showing exactly that. By the way, that flip up by DeAndre Bembry was ridiculous.
That was crazy.
Looking up the other way, and this was where we started to pull ahead in the game, and a lot of it was because of those screens and hard cuts that Aaron Baines was given. It was really, really giving us a lot of positive energy, and it opened up a lot for whether it be Siakam, whether it be Bembry, whether it be Malachi Flynn, like all of those guys in this other kind of lineup with Watanabe in there really did out-hustle the Washington Wizards to get us in a position to win the game.
This was another ridiculous finish out of the Euro step. But yeah, I mean, you take a look at just the defensive effort at that point. And just, I will also give a lot of credit to Russell Westbrook for all of these really bad mid-range shots. But then he hit them. Like, he missed 2 or 3.
Yeah, it was like 4 minutes straight of just missing.
And then he started to put 4 in a row. And like, I was like, what? Like, this 3 as well, like, was crazy. But yeah, this is when
it's a crazy 3, but I'm actually going to be critical of DeAndre Bembry not fighting through what was a really weak screen to get a better contest. But
yeah, and then here it is. Here's the moment that made us literally, like, it literally changed us. Like, all Raptors fans were like celebrating like it was the Kawhi shot for us this season, man. Like, you should have seen HK and I after the game itself, right? We were just,
his name is Gary Trent Jr.
And we went on Call of Duty Warzone and just like yelling out, Gary Trent mentality, you know, like, let's go.
Long range only. Long range
only. Pop, pop, pop. It's pretty crazy.
But you know what is actually really cool is that they just had the pre-order for their purple jerseys open up the day prior, and me always looking for another opportunity to get in. I was always really high on Gary Trent as soon as we got that opportunity, and I'm like, I'm going to get that man's jersey. And for that to happen the day right after I went ahead and ordered it, that was pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I look forward to it.
It means a lot. Maybe you should order like 20 Pascal jerseys. It might help us out a little bit, you know?
I've got the like championship red Pascal jersey. That's what matters.
Anyway, well, and you know, again, let's break down, reiterate, reflect, and move on. Essentially, another abysmal effort from the Toronto Raptors. Offense is not there. Defense is not there. We try to fight back. We end up losing or coming close, making it kind of respectable. But again, it's a game where you have to have full effort for 4 quarters and just have those runs at the right time, have those stops at the right time. And unfortunately, it just seems that that time comes never with the Toronto Raptors this season. We can talk about all the things that have gone wrong, whether it be practice facilities or COVID and, you know, coaching, injuries, just a lot of things that are happening. But ultimately, you know, just a tragedy, an absolute tragedy of a season, a disappointment of a season. But yet there is still hope, potential playoff spots if the Raptors pull it out in this next, I believe, 7 games.
Yeah, and this upcoming one, which is, you know, I want to spend just a little bit of time to actually talk about, because it's potentially a big swing game as far as, 1, playoff chances, and 2, just because the Bulls are going to be a team that we are likely going to be in that fight with to be able to try and get in. So we finally get, you know, a day of rest after this one. But again, 3 games in 4 nights. On the Wednesday, we are going to be facing up against the Chicago Bulls for the first time in the season. A team that we've had a lot of recent success against, other than the fact that we lost to them earlier this year. So it's just one of those things where you're going to face them 3 times this entire season. This is your second of third games against them, and it's going to be at home right up there. But this is after they went ahead and made some moves in that trade deadline. They added a Nikola Vucevic, which is going to be an absolutely monstrous hurdle for an undersized team as far as the Toronto Raptors are concerned. And, we don't have a Marc Gasol to go ahead and control Nick Vucevic now. So what do you think are kind of the keys with regards to how we can actually go ahead and do well against the Chicago Bulls?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's defend. Just defend general. It means you have to be there to get the rebounds. Rebounding is so important, especially against a bigger team like the Chicago Bulls, right? And the second thing is perimeter defense, right? A lot of these guys like to shoot. Like you have Kobe White, you have Zach LaVine, and Vucevic, Markkanen. All of these guys can pull up from three at any point, and they might actually want to do that against the Raptors, given the success that most teams have had against the Raptors and their horrible perimeter defense. So tighten up, guys, tighten up. Honestly, tighten up and wake up on all ends of the floor. That's it. That's the advice I can give. Play to your advantage, which is really a more transition-like game, pace, and aggressive defense.
Yeah.
You don't have that. You don't have your identity, and that really bites us in the butt. When we start slowing down the game, it doesn't look as good, and we get caught out a lot because we don't have the individual skill to play that slow game, right? It's not like the old days. You don't have those guys that can really, you have to be either really, really big for people to not be able to phase you in order to be successful with that slow game, or at least have really good post work or ISO work in order to do that. We don't have that, sadly. And so that's my key. And also, Zach LaVine has been on a tear the entire season. Yeah. So keep that guy in check, and maybe you have it. But at the same time, we've seen how that works with us every single game. Like every game, we keep the best players in really low numbers, and then the rest of the team decides that they want to go on a scoring spree. So I don't know.
In the end, you have to pick your poison at some point, and we've talked about teams having above average 3-point nights against us. The Bulls, on the other hand, are just an above average 3-point shooting team. So it's one of those things where the Chicago Bulls have struggled have been with essentially handling the ball. They are the worst team in the league as far as turnovers are concerned. So you will always get an opportunity up against them because they play at just such a high pace. They're top 10 in the league with that, but they average 16 turnovers a game. So definitely that battle is going to be, to me, a big factor. So that aggressive defense, that ability to score off transition, the ability to score off turnovers, all of those are going to be front and absolute first and foremost as far as Toronto's concerned, because Chicago is going to put up points. That team is entirely set up to essentially score in bunches and score big, whether it be Zach LaVine, Kobe White. He's had his neck injury over the last, I think he'll be back for this game, but they haven't fully confirmed it yet. But he's going to be there. LaVine, Vucevic is going to be there. Markkanen's going to be there. So it's just one of those where you are going to have to go ahead and deal with the fact that you have this entire front court that is able to quickly get buckets together. But where we, I believe, have the advantage is in that point guard play, because they're pretty much running with Satoransky, or funny enough, Thaddeus Young pretty much playing point forward.
Point guard, yeah.
So it's just one of those things where their shot.
Which he's done well.
Oh, absolutely. Thad has had an incredible season. One of the incredibly underrated players as far as the league is concerned, but they are not a team that are really kind of one person oriented as far as their offense is concerned. They're expecting to get a lot of movement from that initial guy coming in. So it's all about putting that extra pressure on a Satoransky, on a Thaddeus Young, on a Zach LaVine to be able to make those errant passes. And that's where we have an opportunity to go ahead and win the game. But we'll find out exactly how that ends up going when they come up against them Wednesday night. And hopefully I'll get a little bit more hair on my face for that game. Owais will get a little bit more ice to cool him down. And the swing, as always, is going to be on not only live on Instagram post-game to give our instant reactions about how it's going. So definitely follow us, right above there at the Swing Podcast. Go ahead and follow us on there for our live post games, which are always a ton of fun. But Friday night is when we have our next episode right here on our YouTube channel, right here on Sports Trends Live, and right here with you guys. So until then, keep watching, keep engaging. We love that you guys are here. We love that we have this platform. And until then, this is HK. That's that guy Owais. And we will see you on the next one. Peace.
Lillard, long range three. Let's go. Defended by Simmons.